Well, greetings everybody. Today we're continuing with the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 14. So we've already read up to there. So previously, um, we read, well, Chapter 1, we had the invocation, three famous shlokas of invocation, and the questions raised by the rishis, headed by Shaunaka Rishi. And then in Chapter 2, Sutta begins his answers with another invocation and gives all the answers to the questions that were raised in the first chapter. And then in Chapter 3, he gives a survey of the 24 incarnations of Vishnu. And then in Chapter 4, Narada comes in and has his dialogue with Vyasadeva and gives the inspiration to Vedavyas to compose the Srimad Bhagavatam. So anyway, it went on. We've had a few different things. The Pandavas, the Ashwatthama trying to kill Parikshit in the womb, how he was rescued, and then the prayers of Queen Kunti. And then in the next chapter was the passing away of Pitamaha Bhishma Deva and his prayers. And then in chapter 10, I can't remember what we had. So we'll skip forward to where we're on now, chapter 14. And with this, we'll probably finish the first canto. So, Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitang Sa Jivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakham Vitamscha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam Shukamukadamrita Dravasayutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. Ripe fruit from scripture's wish-fulfilling tree, distilled from Shuka's lips eloquently, drink deep this Bhagavat, pure rapture's store, ye connoisseurs on earth forevermore. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 14. Suta said, for some time Jishnu had been gone away at Dwaraka, there with his friends to stay, and of the Lord, praised with fair eloquence, he sought of his affairs intelligence. After some months, without Arjuna passed, the upholder of the Kurus at last began to see ominous auguries, portending impending adversities. He saw the critical juncture of time and disruption of the season and clime. He saw mankind to evil ways inclined, to anger, greed, and falsity resigned. He saw how well-wishers would friends betray, and deception the order of the day. Mother, father, friends, and brothers at strife, and consternation, contention between husband and wife. He saw portents indicative of time, mankind's degeneration and decline. By signs of greed and vice disquieted, the king unto his younger brother said. So Yudhishthira is going to speak to Bhimasen, because Arjuna's not there. Yudhishthira said, so here, interestingly, in verse 1 again, only with a slight variation. For some time, Yudhisthira speaking now, for some time Jishnu has been gone away, at Dwarka, there with his friends to stay, and of the Lord praised with fair eloquence, he seeks of his affairs intelligence. Full 7 months have passed, O Bhimasen, but your younger has not come back again. The cause whereof for this his long delay, indeed I do not know, nor can I say. Or haply the predestined time has sped, as even godlike Narada had said, when the illustrious one shall depart this pastime with his emanated part. From him alone our good fortune derives, our kingdom, dynasty, and our good wives. Our conquest of foes and high destiny are all because of his benignity. O tiger among men, behold and see the signs portending dire calamity on earth in beings and the firmament, which causes us fear and bewilderment. There is a nervous twitching in my frame, in my left eye and thigh, o'er and again, and in my left arm. My heart palpitates, which imminent displeasure indicates. O dear one, behold the she-jackal dire, howling at Aditya and spitting fire, and how the lowly cur barks at me here, grown insolent and now devoid of fear. The good beasts by my left are passing found, and lesser creatures circle me around. The noble steeds in the stables I keep seemeth in sore lamentation to weep. See how the pigeon, death's messenger, flies. Hear how the night owl ominously cries. The crow and the owl who always contend desire oblivion and the world's end. Thick plumes of smoke involve the gloomy sky. Earth trembles with her hills and mountains high. The lightning flashes forth a livid shroud, and thunder rumbles when there is no cloud. The violent wind dusty particles sheds, and all involving darkness gloomy spreads. Then gathering, the cumulus again seemeth to shed a ghastly bloody rain. The blaze of Surya's rays fall in decline, planets and stars in contention combine. All creatures seem to lament bitterly, scorched in the flames of dire adversity. The rivers, lakes, and flowing streams are stirred. The mind is in such confusion disturbed. The sacred ghee no longer flames ignite. Oh, what is this that occasions affright? The calves drink not from cows whose teats are dry. The cows themselves no longer milk supply, but weep with tearful faces standing round, and bulls no more enjoy the pleasure ground. The icons in the temples seem to grieve. They weep, perspire, and seem ready to leave. The peopled cities, towns, and villages, the forests, quarries, and hermitages have ceased to be with joy and plenty blessed. What evil shall be to us manifest? I think these portents of calamity augur insufferable misery, as earth is no more by the Lord's feet pressed, and thus is of her fortune dispossessed. While thus the king was in perplexity, observing the signs of adversity, the monkey-bannered hero of high fame, returning from Yadu's city came. He saw him bowing at his feet, his head, with unwonted sorrow disquieted. He looked down as one who misery bears, and from his lotus eyes shed streams of tears. The king saw how his younger's heart was pained, whose face with tears and pallor was disdained, and recalling Narada's speech, distressed, in the midst of friends, words like these addressed, Yudhisthira said, "Are those who in Anarta's city dwell our dear friends living happily and well? Madhus, Bhojas, Dasarha families, Arhas, Satwatas, Andakas, Vrishnis. Does our grandsire happily remain, spending his days, the worthy Surasane? How does great Anaka Dundubi fare, our uncle with his younger brothers there? How are his wives, the 7 sisters fair, led by Devaki? Speak of the welfare of sons and daughters-in-law that there dwell. Are all of them content and doing well? Is Ahuka, that's Ugrasena, with his brethren, the king, who had a wicked son, now prospering? Are Akrura, Hridika, and his son, Jayanta, Sharama, the mighty one, Gada, Satrujit, and the family now dwelling in peace and prosperity? And how is Rama, the Almighty Lord, the one by all the Sattvatas adored? How is the Ka warrior eminent, Pradyumna? Is he at ease and content? Is he of the most profound expertise, Lord Aniruddha, dwelling there at ease? And what of Krishna's sons and his grandsons, those puissant heroes and courageous ones, Susena and Charudeshna, and he, Samba, the great son of Jambavati? Of Srutadeva, Uddhava, pray tell, are Nanda and Sunanda faring well, and all those adherents of Lord Sauri, the extended Satvata family? Do they abide in peace, free of alarms, protected by Rama and Krishna's arms? And do they ever recollection bear of us, their friends, and ask of our welfare? Is Govinda, the illustrious one who bears for his devotees affection, in the Sudharma hall seated at ease, surrounded by his friends and devotees? To bless the world and all therein to grace, in the broad ocean of the Yadu race, the primal one did on the earth descend, with Ananta, his other self and friend, who gives all protection from scathe and harm by his heroic deeds and mighty arm. And all those Yadus who with him abide regale as those who in heaven reside. And those damsels who by service to his feet, like Satya, even the gods could defeat. And 16,000 damsels in a train enjoy the bounty of heavenly gain, and were more blessed than the consorts of he, the mighty thunder-wielding deity. Those Yadu heroes were free of alarms, protected by his victorious arms, and all their adversaries did defeat, tramping upon them with their haughty feet. Those mighty potentates and heroes all, foregathered in the grand Sudharma hall. O say, what ails thee, dearest brother mine? You no more with your wonted lustre shine. Have you been slighted or disdained? For certainly you had there long remained. Have you with vile reproaches been accused, or with unfriendly conduct been abused? Have you been shamed with incapacity to succor suppliants with charity? Or have you failed to succor and to spare those deserving of your protective care? A Brahmin, child, a cow, or an old man, a helpless woman? Have you approached an unfit damosel? Or have you failed to treat a damsel well? Or have you been assailed in the affray by bands of lowly vassals on the way? Had you not seen that old and young were fed, but partaken your meal alone instead? What crime abominable must there be that is incapable of remedy? Haply your composure has been destroyed, your heart afflicted by an aching void, and now you are in anxiety tossed, without your friend, and thinking, I am lost. Thus ends chapter 14, the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Chapter 15, Sutta said, thus Krishna's friend, Krishna, was deeply stirred when he, the king, his brother's speech had heard. So we all know now that Arjuna, another name for Arjuna is Krishna. So where it says, thus Krishna's friend, Krishna, was deeply stirred when he, the king, his brother's speech had heard, and all those conjectures his pain revived, now grieving sore of Lord Krishna, deprived. The lotus of his heart wilted for grief, his mouth was parched, he saw no sure relief. As Krishna's recollection began to rise, he was unable to frame his replies. At length, his deep emotion he controlled. With hands from eyes he wiped the tears that rolled. No more by Krishna's direct presence blessed, he was by love and loss sorely depressed. His friendship, love, and amity with all, his charioteer divine he did recall, with signs and broken voice disquieted. Unto the king his elder brother said, Arjuna said, O king, I have by Hari been deceived, with whom I had a fond friendship conceived, and my power derived from him is spent, which in the gods occasioned wonderment. Parted from whom, for e'en a moment's time, the world is displeasing, and I repine. Deprived of him, the world is void and dead, like muddy corpses when the life has fled. By whose favour and unremitting grace, when gathered in King Drupada's palace, those mighty princes under Cupid's sway, on the grand self-election wedding day, eagerly sought the task to accomplish, but only I could hit the target fish. And thus they were diminished of their pride, and beautiful Krishna I took for bride, in whose presence I could ignite the fire, consuming Kandava forest entire, and could with Indra and the gods dispose, and vanquish the gods who would fain oppose. A wondrous palace Maya did erect, the master divine and mystic architect. Then from all directions princes and kings besought your right, brought to your right bountiful offerings. That's referring to the Rajasuya. by whose favor your worthy youngers might, with strength of 1,000 elephants, could smite the one who had subdued the host of kings to make to the Lord of ghosts his offerings, and by his heroic deeds and conduct removed impediments that might obstruct the grand sacrifice that you had proposed, and he, to magnanimity disposed, those captive kings from their durance released, and by their gratitude your wealth increased. So there he's talking about how by Krishna's blessing, Bhimasena could kill Jarasandha. Now, your consort's beautiful and clustered hair had been sanctified and anointed fair. But in the concourse of great princes, when her hair was seized upon by wicked men, she lay prostrate, her face with tears distained, but contemplation on Krishna maintained, and thence the wives of all those proud heroes with loosened hair lamented as widows. So he's saying because of the outrage done to Draupadi, later on all the wives of the heroes became widows. Who averted a great calamity, this is Arjuna reminiscing Krishna, who averted a great calamity instigated by the vile enemy, when in the woods we had to entertain sage Durvasa with thousands in his train. But he, the Lord, a morsel did partake, which their hunger appeased and thirst did slake. And e'en though submersed in the river's stream, they felt they had been more than banqueted been. By whose grace I confronted without fear the deity who wields the mighty spear, and he with the mountain king's daughter praised my deed, and were with wonderment amazed, as Shiva and Parvati, and conferred upon me his own weapon. Nay, in this body I went to heaven, and in the palace of great Indra there I was seated upon half of his chair. While there the gods with Indra, their great lord, the prowess of my dexterous arm implored, and thence with my bow Gandiva I slew all her crew. By his favor these exploits I achieved, by investiture of power received. O King, scion of Ajamida's line, I am now bereft of that Lord divine. Favored by whose friendship and amity I crossed the boundless and turbulent sea of the Kuru host that my way would bar, and I alone seated upon my car. Then with the foe unable of defence, I did much spoil and booty gather thence, and took away their wealth and costly gems with glistering bright shiny diadems. Remember that. That's when Krishna defeated all by himself the host of Kurus and took their garments. Again, 'twas he who drove before me on the car into the concourse gathered for the war, where Bhishma, Karna, and the teacher stood, and Salya with the immense multitude of great car warriors in vast array. Yet by his glance he took their strength away. Under the shelter of whose protective arm I was defended from all scathe and harm, that neither the teacher nor Bhishma wise, nor Bhurishrava nor his brave allies, Trigarta's king Salya, nor Sindhu's lord, nor Ballika with all their weapons stored, could hurt me, and the darts they did direct, or went astray, or were of no effect. As the servant of the lion man Hari, felt neither pain nor discomfort when he was by his demon tormentors assailed, and all their efforts to injure him failed. That's talking about Prahlad. From folly and confidence I enjoy the Supreme Lord as my driver employed, whom the wise serve and salvation entreat by worship of his lotus flower feet. Yet while I stood defenseless on the ground to let the horses drink, he did confound and caused distraction midst the enemy, who thus neglected and did not notice me. His pleasant conversation and his wiles, attended with his amicable smiles, when he would address me or would commend, O Partha, O Arjuna, O my friend, O Kuru's joy. Thus versed in friendship's art, his recollection touches deep my heart. And thus, O King, the whelming pain I bear without Madhava fills me with despair. Reposing or reclining on a chair, or strolling with him in a garden fair, dining with him, my one beloved most, I would before him impudently boast. But he, like a true friend with friend, forsooth, would say, indeed, you speak the very truth. Or like a father with his wayward son, would suffer all and grant his benison. And since he is so gentle and so wise, my presumption he would not scrutinize. Thus even I, O King of Kings, depend on my supreme and illustrious friend, but now of his divine presence deprived, my bosom friend, some herdsmen have contrived to ambush me, escorting on the way the queens whom I had been sent to convey, and the Lord's consorts safely to conduct, but those herdsmen were able to abduct. This is the bow, the arrows, this the car, the horses these, most excellent by far, and I am the same who admiration stirred in mighty kings who high honor conferred. But in a moment all that I could boast is useless now, its innate luster lost, like sacrificial ghee on ashes thrown, magic coins or seeds on barren earth sown. O King, as you have asked, I truly tell of our friends dear who in the city dwell, cursed by Vipras with rods of hardened cane. They have each other in delusion slain. They did in frenzy of combat combine, intoxicated by Varuni wine, unwitting and of their selves senses deprived, that only 4 or 5 of them survived. As though in the exercise of his will, the Lord hath his own purpose to fulfill, and beings are mutually employed in saving or being saved, or destroyed. As the big fish, the little fish seek, the strong, O King, overpower the weak, and beings with each other thus enraged, the Yadus in mutual slaughter engaged. By great Yadus, lesser Yadus were slain, and thus the Lord fulfills his mighty aim, the clan of the Yadus to extirpate and relieve earth of the burdensome weight. Now time and place significance impart to soothe the burning pain within my heart, as I recall to mind the memory of Govinda's fair speech addressed to me. Sutta said, thus, contemplating Krishna's lotus feet, Jishnu was sunk in meditation sweet, recalling such friendship was pacified, and his mind from all taint was purified. Now, by the constant contemplation sweet, with devotion on Vasudeva's feet, Arjuna's mind was quickly sanctified, and the taint of anxieties subside. He recalled that knowledge the Lord revealed, the Gita song upon the battlefield, which he in time forgot and was deprived, till now again that knowledge was revived. Sans grief he had attained beatitude, and without differential view he viewed. Nature into gunas he did sublate, and was fit to attain the supreme state. Of the Lord's departure thus having heard, Yudhishthira was to dispassion stirred. With the fall of great Yadu's dynasty, he fixed his mind on immortality. When Pritha heard what Dhananjaya said of Krishna's departure, the Yadu's dead, with singular and devout attitude, she was with supreme devotion endued. For adhoksaja, mind under control, and from transmigration released her soul. He thus assumed a form to be employed with Yadus, that earth's burden be destroyed. As a thorn is used to remove a thorn, then both are cast aside by the unborn. As he wondrous forms as the fish assumes, and then his wonted shape again resumes, as one actor doth various parts play, adopting a guise, now casting away. The burden of the earth he removed anew, and having done so, his person withdrew. What time Lord Mukunda did disappear, whose glad tidings are most worthy to hear, and withdrew from the world his wondrous play, Kali entered the world from that same day, who does power of intellect subvert of those who are not wakeful and alert. Yudhishthira could wisely deliberate, observing in the city and the state, in every home and each person forsooth, the rise of unrighteousness and untruth, iniquity and hate and violence, and dressed himself for his departure thence. His grandson, like himself in quality, vested with imperial dignity, who would from Elephant City commend his vast dominion to the sea-girt land, of the sea-girt land. He appointed Vajra also to reign at Mathura, the realm of Surasen, and established in himself the sacred fire in readiness from the world to retire. He discarded his fine royal raiment, removed from his person each ornament, sans ego sense, devoid of worldly hopes, and endless attachments binding ropes. His speech into his vital breath consigned, and sense perception drew into the mind. The body into the five did sublate, and was aloof from the conditioned state. The five into the three he then resolved, and all into the one were then dissolved, perceiving himself and the self of all, the supreme Brahman, imperishable. He donned coarse garments and gave up the use of food, was silent, and his hair hung loose. He showed himself as one devoid of wit, like one possessed of madness in a fit. As one deaf and dumb in his altered state, he turned not back, nor did for any wait. As the great ones of yore in joy journeyed forth, with high determination to the north, contemplating within his heart intent on the supreme Brahman, away he went. His younger brethren his conduct ensue, and were ready the same path to pursue. They saw how vice's friend, Kali, had spread on earth in subjects, and away they sped. Their piety in conduct they maintained, and the supreme ultimate welfare gained, and were absorbed in contemplation sweet on the Lord of Vaikuntha's lotus feet. By such contemplation they were endued with pure devotion's high beatitude, and by their exclusive meditation attained the realm of mighty Narayan. Thus, to the goal supreme they did repair, to obtain which is exceedingly rare for those absorbed in the sense objects vain, but they attained that region without stain. Vidura also his way did betake, to Prabhasa his body to forsake, and contemplating on Krishna intent, back to the realm of the Manes he went. Draupadi, when she knew her husband's mind, to their indifference she was resigned, and with deep contemplation she adored and attained to Vasudeva, the Lord. Whoever doth this sublime account here of Pandu's sons, unto the Lord most dear, of their departure for the supreme goal, will purify and sanctify his soul, and will attain thereby most certainly the highest devotion for Lord Hari. End of chapter 15. Chapter 16 then. Sutta said, just need to wet my whistle. Thereafter, Sutta said, thereafter, O Vipras, that mighty one accepted from the twice-born's instruction. He was a great devotee of high worth, and guided by the wise, governed the earth. He was endued with those virtues extolled at his birth that the seers had foretold. So it's talking about Parikshit now, because he's been installed as the king. To Uttara's monarch he was allied, and took Princess Iravati for bride, and got 4 sons on her of worthy fame, headed by Janamejaya by name. Upon the Ganga's bank he performed thrice, with bounteous gifts, the horse sacrifice, with Sadatwat to guide the sanctities, where could be viewed the present deities. In the progress of his march of conquest, he saw Kali in royal raiment dressed. Our hero did chastise him and restrain, who, footing a cow and bull, caused them pain. Shonaka said, while on his tour of conquest, why did he merely restrain and but chastise Kali, who although base wore the signs of a king, causing a cow and a bull much suffering by striking with his foot, inflicting pain? O fortunate one, the reason explain, expound the theme, if it has reference to Krishna's deeds of passing excellence. For those who lick, as 'twere, the honey sweet, distilled from the Lord's lotus flower peat, what use is there in other topics vain, which doth away one's longevity drain? O dear one, the lifetime of any man is short, and also of uncertain span. Desirous from death to gain respite, we have invited him to share the right. So long as Antaka himself appears, invited and invoked by the great seers, and since that god of death hath here arrived, none present here shall be of life deprived. Therefore, wondrous deeds of Hari describe, that people may ambrosia imbibe, the dull-witted and those of meagre brain, those who but pass their paltry lives in vain, during the night asleep their time they spend, the day in acts that serve no useful end. I have to go to the next one. Sutta said, while Parikshit empire did sustain over Kuru Jangala's vast domain, the news was brought to his attentive ear, which was most unpleasant for him to hear, that Kali, with his pollution and stain, had entered regions of his royal reign, which, when these unpleasant tidings he heard, took up his bow to martial ardour stirred. The king on his world conquest thus proceeds, on his chariot drawn by sable steeds, adorned with various decoration, and banner emblazoned with the lion, and left the capital with puissant force of foot and car and elephant and horse. The regions of Bharata he suppressed, his way to the northern Kurus he pressed, conquest of King Purushas he pursued, exacted tribute, conquered and subdued. Everywhere in the country, in each town, he heard of his great ancestors' renown. He hears in song, wherever he proceeds, the fame of Krishna and his mighty deeds. He heard how the Lord did his death prevent, what time Ashwatthama the missile sent, his affection for Parthas and Vrishnis, and how they were Keshava's devotees. Hearing all this, the king was satisfied, and in wonder his eyes dilated wide. Great wealth, garments, necklaces he consigned in charity, being of noble mind. He heard how Vishnu, whom the world obeys, the sons of Pandu served in diverse ways, as driver, as president of the right, their envoy, who followed them with delight, how he saluted them and loved them well, and stood guard over them as sentinel, when he of the Lord and his servants heard, with love for those lotus sweet he was stirred, and thus observed his great ancestors' ways, and in good offices he spent his days. But hear the wonder that to him befell, not long after, as I shall to you tell. Lo, he beheld Dharma with one leg there, approaching a cow fraught with anxious care, with tears, deprived of her offspring, distressed. Then Dharma to her these questions addressed. Dharma said, O blessed dame, is all with thee not well? What ails thee, dear mother? I pray thee tell. A dark shadow of grief your face disdains. Do you suffer from distemper and pains? Or do you for a dear friend long absent and anguish in sore distress lament? Or are you happily lamenting for me, with but one leg, as you can plainly see? Or are you distressed and discomfited that you by wretches will be exploited? Or is it again for the gods you grieve, who no longer due offerings receive? Or are you now fraught with anxious care and doubt that subjects will suffer from dearth and drought? Or does the very thought cause you distress for women and children who are helpless, whose guardians persist in cruel deeds, like one who on his fellow creatures feeds? Do you sorrow for the goddess of speech, when schools of Brahmins unrighteousness teach. Perhaps you sorrow for the Brahmins wise in subjection to royal families. Or do you see in rulers the decline in the course of inexorable time, where burdened with irremediable cares, the order they corrupt of state affairs? Or do you lament for the sorry state of man in general degenerate, who follow not observance nor decree, but eat and drink as bids necessity, who bathe and indulge their base appetites, enamored of trivial, vain delights? Or haply, dear mother, you are aggrieved, since whilom your burden had been relieved when divine Hari incarnate took birth. Is it not so, O blessed Mother Earth? His sublime exploits salvation afford. Do you repine in absence of that Lord? O blessed Mother Earth, pray tell to me the root cause of your dire perplexity, whereby you have of vigour been deprived. Is it indeed by mighty time contrived? It seems you have your blessed fortune lost, admired by all the celestial host. Dharani said, earth and cow form, O Dharma, all thou hast inquired of me is already comprehended by thee, since erstwhile thou wert by 4 legs sustained, and happiness in all the world maintained. Truth, purity, tolerance, and kindness, renunciation, peace, straightforwardness, satisfaction, content, firmness, and equanimity, self-control, mind control, austerity, wisdom, dispassion, duty, lordliness, heroic, wise, with power and prowess, valiant, indifferent, dexterous, sober, gentle, potent, illustrious, diligent, determined, and mannerly, of perfect knowledge and sublime beauty, fortunate, profound, and of firm intent, faithful and famous and preeminent, devoid of pride, such qualities divine in the Almighty One eternal shine, that the wise and the great strive to attain, which, undiminished, e'er with him remain, who is the source of every quality and resting place of the goddess Shri. I lament loss of fortune of mine late, and of the people's pitiable state. Now Kali's sinful influence hath spread. I am grieving and much dispirited. I also sorrow for myself, distressed, O thou of the immortal ones the best. I pity gods, manes, and sages great, the holy ones, and noble caste and state, whom Brahma and such other gods adore, prompted by desire, her grace implore, and long penances and worship maintain, the bounty of her gracious glance to gain. But that same Shri forsook her lotus grove, enamored of his lotus feet and love. And I was also with such fortune blessed, with his divine footprints on me impressed, the lotus, thunderbolt, the flag, and goad imprinted on my bosom as he strode, and thus decorated I did appear, surpassing splendor of the triple sphere, such blessing of which I might proudly boast, to me in the end has been sadly lost. I was oppressed by the cumbersome load of demon clans, who of me made abode. With hundreds of Akshohinis arrayed, he slew them all. You were also dismayed, due to your want of legs, but he restored your vigor. That supreme almighty Lord assumed a handsome form in Yadu's race, to exercise his manliness and grace. Who can, therefore, from him severance bear? The Supreme Lord Purushottama dear, who with his loving glances and his smiles and sweet talk his proud lady love beguiles. And when his lotus feet o'er me would pass, my hair bristled as sprouting blades of grass. While Prithvi and Dharma were immersed, and on these various subjects conversed, the king, sagacious Parikshit by name, to where Saraswati flows eastward came. Thus ends chapter 16, chapter 17. Sutta said, hold on. The king beheld the bovine couple there, hard beaten, as if they had no master, receiving with a rod a sound drubbing from a base villain dressed up like a king. White as lotus fibers, the bull divine, in the convulsions of fear past during, and although only on one leg he trod, the peasant struck him fiercely with his rod. The cow also distressed, and poor besides, who virtue in the form of milk provides, without her calf, disconsolate and weak, with tearful eyes for fresh green grass did seek. The king upon his car enchased in gold, with thunderous voice addressed the caitiff bold, and raised his mighty bow and arrow dread, and questioning the malefactor said, "You, who are you that beat without remorse, that on the weak inflict violence and force upon my wards, in godlike king's disguise, like a vile dancer condemned by the wise? Durst thou, deeming Krishna hath gone from here, and that archer who did the Gandiva rear, that you may cause the innocent to cry, it is expedient that you should die? And you, white as lotus stems, beautiful, but with but one leg appearing as a bull, are you sun god or demigod divine, that causes us in distress to repine? On all this earth, protected by the arms of Pandavas, none suffer dire alarms. Aside from ye, creatures weep not. Somehow, I see you sore distressed and weeping now. O scion of Surabhi, do not grieve. From fear of this peasant I shall relieve. O mother mine, weep not. May all be well, while I am here the wicked ones to quell. If the subjects, O chaste one, who are distressed, and by the wicked in the state oppressed, the king, deluded, loses his good name, his life, his gold, his fortune, and his fame, it is the supreme duty of the king that succor to the sufferers he bring. Therefore this caitiff who delights in ill, I must in righteousness and duty kill. O scion of Surabhi, who is he who of 4 legs has deprived you of 3? Such deeds in the state have not been espied by kings who have Lord Krishna for their guide. O taintless bull, may all be well, all be with you well. That I may ascertain the culprit, tell, who has disfigured you? Who is to blame, which brings on Pritha's descendants ill fame? Whoso inflicts on the good violence, and offenceless creatures commits offence? But, fearing me, when they have been subdued, the good are thereby with blessings endued. The rash caitiff, insolent, unrestrained, by whom the innocent are sorely pained, I shall lop off his offending arms and hands, of even a god with golden armbands. It is the highest duty of the king, that to the good who to their duties cling, he afford safety, while those who despise scripture without reason he must chastise. Dharma said, your speech befits one of the Pandu's line, affording fearlessness, worthy, sublime. enamored of their virtue, for whose sake Almighty Krishna as their envoy spake. O best of men, O king, we cannot say or ascertain the cause of misery, for opinions diverse the cause ascribe to things diverse and diversely describe. Some thinkers and philosophers maintain that unfulfilled desire causes pain. Some say the self alone is sorrow's cause, and others blame the stars or nature's laws. Yet others, settled in conviction, tell the cause of pain is supernatural. Therefore, O king, you may yourself attest which of these propositions seemeth best. Sutta said, O first and foremost of the twice-born men, the emperor pondered a while, and then perceived the essence of right conduct clear, and spake unto the bull, as thou shalt hear. The king said, O you who make virtue discernible, O righteousness incarnate as a bull, it seems those who would unrighteousness blame must partake somewhat of the guilt and shame. Therefore it is the Lord's Maya withal, whose ways unknown are inconceivable, that neither mind nor speech can ascertain the sure causes of any creature's pain. Penance, purity, compassion, and truth in Krita are the legs of virtue, forsooth. But vice hath undermined and broken three, with piety, attachment, and pride, attachment, and insanity. O Dharma, yet your leg of truth remains, and barely haltingly that truth sustains. But vice and Kali mutually strive, you of that last leg of truth to deprive. This earth indeed was fortunate of late, with the illustrious one incarnate, when she of her great burden was relieved, and blessedness when his footprints received. But now from her the tears of grief are shed, the chaste one now laments disquieted, thinking how the base Brahmins would destroy in guise of kings, and her beauty and her bounty enjoy. Thus virtue and earth, as the bovine pair, were consoled by the great power warrior. The king on the causes of vice to deal stern punishment took up his sword of steel. Now, when he saw the king intent to excuse me, just have a sip. Maybe I shouldn't go on for too long and do another one when I get to the end of this chapter. Anyway, so Kali. Now, when Kali saw the king intent to slay, in fear he threw his royal garb away, and laid at the feet of the king his head, in perturbation of terror and dread. But when he saw him at his feet resigned, our hero, to the distressed always kind, whose great quality high praises evoke, then with a smile compassionately spoke. The king said, to one who has inherited the fame of him who bore of Gudakesh the name, whoever ever with joined palms approaches near, can be assured and entertain no fear. But you cannot be suffered to remain in my vasty and extensive domain, since you are the accomplice and the friend of vice. I shall thence into banishment send. With you, present in ruling king's disguise, among the subjects avarice doth rise, falsehood and theft and all iniquity, deception, misfortune, vulgarity, quarrel and arrogance and cheating too, all these signs of adharma follow you. O friend of vice, there you should not remain, where the good, truth and righteousness maintain. There should in Brahmavarta be no vice, where worshippers perform due sacrifice, where they who are in wisdom consummate, the great Lord of Yajna propitiate. In sacrifice each high divinity are aspects of illustrious Hari, and those who worship thus welfare secure, and the objects of desire procure. He is the soul of all, and doth abide like air within all beings and outside. Suta said, admonished thus, Kali was fraught with fear, when he his Parikshit's stern decree did hear, and trembled at the sword raised o'er his head, like him who wields the rod, and to him said, Kali said, dread sovereign, as thou hast commanded me, to elsewhere dwell, even so let it be. But I shall be afraid where'er I go, at sight of thee with thy arrows and bow. Therefore, upholder of virtue divine, thou shouldst for my dwelling place assign some place where I may suitably remain under the government of your domain. Suta said, the king thus, having been by him besought, decided as occurred to him the thought, where drinking, gaming, wenching, and killing are indulged, he assigned for his dwelling. And yet again he begged another more, a fifth place over and above the four, to which was gold, the cause of falsity, passion, pride, arrogance, and enmity. These 5 places then were assigned to him, where Kali could exercise vice and sin. And thus Kali to these 5 places went, where to the son of Uttara him sent. The virtuous, kings and nobility, and preceptors who live in sanctity, who in their righteous duty are employed, such places of iniquity avoid. Restored were broken legs of the bull 3, which are passion, cleanliness, and mercy, and earth was restored to her wonted cheer, to flourish in content and without fear. Thus governed he the ancient royal throne, received from his grandfather as his own, and ruled the subjects for the general good, and thereafter retired to the wood. And even now, upon the legacy of great kings of the Kuru dynasty, of Elephantopolis, the renown upholders of the royal ruling crown. Because of Abhimanyu's royal son, our prolonged sacrifice may be begun, whose great deeds and inestimable worth could justly govern and protect the earth. And thus ends chapter 17. Should we leave it there, Matura? People probably getting tired.
Oh, I'm not tired at all. It's up to you. I mean, is there only just one chapter left?
2.
I mean, it's literally your gig, so if you're tired and you want
Well, I might as well do it then.
yeah,
Just thinking.
have a cup of tea or just a drink of water.
Have a little pause, Madam, even just have a 5-minute pause. Matura can pause, no?
No, you can't pause.
Oh, that's
okay.
We can just leave it on pause. Have a drink.
Have a little drink, though.
Yeah, have a drink. We're all here. We're all ears.
These are some of the best chapters of the Bhagavatam, the entering. This is where the Bhagavatam begins, isn't it? It's the entering of the age of Kali. It's like,
and also the poetry really suits this kind of narrative very well.
Yeah.
It's quite dramatic and poetic, and because we got our song. Kali's got the whole. Now Kali's got us all.
All right, so I'll carry on then.
You got enough coffee, tea in you? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
So Sutta said. So yeah, this is great. It is really amazing.
I'm muted now.
Huh?
Am I muted?
No, you're not.
Oh, well.
So Sutta said, chapter 18. The one struck by the dart of Drona's son while he still lay within his mother's womb By Krishna's wondrous deed, the Lord Most High, though he was but burnt to death, he did not die. So he's talking about the antecedents of Parikshit. On likewise, whence of his death he heard, due to the Brahmin's rage from a snake bird. He was neither afraid nor overawed, since he was one surrendered to the Lord. Thence he all his attachments did resign, with knowledge of the Lord, Ajita, divine, which as Vyasa's pupil he did glean. Vyasa, so that's Sukha, son of Vyasa, which as Vyasa's pupil he did glean, then gave his body to the Ganga stream. Those who in the sweet narratives immerse themselves of the Lord praised in charming verse, his lotus-like feet remembers steadfast, unbeguiled, even when he breathed his last. What though the proud influence of Kali hath entered in with all iniquity, so long as Abhimanyu's son prevails, of its potent influence Kali fails. Certainly even from that very day, when the Lord had departed on his way, from then contentious Kali entered in with all unrighteousness and vice and sin. The wise emperor the essence could see, who imbibed deep essences as a bee, and did not hate Kali, for well he knew that good deeds in the age quickly accrue, but only evil deeds and not the thought in Kali's age with consequences fraught. When a tiger assails a flock of deer, they flee from dread in terror and in fear. 'Tis fools that Kali's influence beguiles, the self-controlled are conscious of his wiles. According to your just inquiry on Parikshit, I have framed my reply, related to the topics and the deeds of Vasudeva, whence virtue proceeds. Whatever wondrous acts, mighty and bold, the Lord hath done are worthy to be told, and those who seek their welfare should resort to his service and praise his divine sport. Sages said, O Suta, we wish you long life and fame. O gentle one, you worthily proclaim, for discourses on Krishna such as this, to us mortals is like immortal bliss. This rite we undertake, grace to invoke, uncertain is, but involves us in smoke. Your speech affords pleasure like lotus wine, distilled from Govinda's soft feet divine. Of devotees association rare, even for a moment cannot compare with heaven's joy, no, nor salvation's bliss. For mortals, what could be better than this? Who is that worthy connoisseur aesthete, that satiated is with humours sweet? His exclusive and mighty power great, the lords of yoga could not estimate, nor Bhava, nor the great God who doth sit upon the lotus can reach the limit. Thou art a great and learned devotee, singularly resigned to Lord Hari. Recite to us, who with eagerness long to hear his wondrous deeds in hallowed song. And certes, Parikshit in high degree is counted as the foremost devotee, who with his intellect unsullied fixed his mind on supreme salvation unmixed. From the son of Vyasa wisdom attained, and worshipful meditation maintained, and focused his mind and understanding at his feet, whose flag blazons the bird king. To us, therefore, that hallowed theme recite of steadfast yoga, wonder, and delight, whence accounts of Ananta are conferred that were by worthy King Parikshit heard. which fondly pleased devotees of the Lord, the infinite being and one adored. Suta said, though born of mean extraction, I attest I am today, me, most highly blessed. For service to the elders and the wise, discoursing with the great soon purifies. What then of those who always chant the name of the Lord, whom great ones fondly acclaim, who is with infinite potency dight, whose divine qualities are infinite, and who is therefore as Ananta height? Well, as for that, but so much can be said of his inestimable great Godhead, who is unexcelled in and ineffable, without a peer and inexpressible, that she, the great goddess, who gods adore, and for her favours earnestly implore, attends his lotus feet with loving care, though he did not desire this of her. So thus is known the glory of the Lord, whose foot wash by Virinchi is adored, which Isha bears upon his mighty crest, and deems himself as sanctified and blessed, who but Mukunda in the world could claim of illustrious Bhagavan the name. Whoever thus to love of him betakes, his love for body and its needs forsakes, with self-control and practice of restraint, he follows the way of the swan-like saint, characterized by sober quiescence, duty, dispassion, and non-violence. As far as I have learnt, I shall requite your worded questions, sun-like sages bright. Thus Vishnu's praises are sung by the wise, according as they know or realize, as even birds that wing the azure sky, only as high as strength allows can fly. Upon a day the king with his bow went into the woods upon the chase intent. Wearied from hunting beasts that had dispersed, he was exhausted with hunger and thirst. In search of water, to the hermitage he came and saw a meditating sage. He viewed him seated in silence, reposed, in contemplation deep, with his eyes closed. His life air and his senses were restrained, his mind and intellect steady remained, inactive and beyond the triple state, with absolute Brahman incorporate. His matted locks were scattered all around. Upon his body a deerskin was bound. Craving for water, the king was oppressed, and in that condition made his request. But he received nor word nor welcome there, neither a straw mat nor reception fair. Deeming himself dishonoured by the sage, he was incensed and flew into a rage. Such conduct was quite out of character. Now oppressed by extreme thirst and hunger, his high honour was injured by the slight, and entertained toward the Brahmin spite. He thence, prompted by his disdain and rage, decided to insult the holy sage. A dead snake over his shoulder did lay, picked up with his bow tip and went his way. Now he's thinking, I wonder if he really was reposed in silent meditation with eyes closed, or was it just a pretense to disgrace a martial prince of lowly Kshatriya race? He had a potent son, who then when he heard, while playing with his friends, to rage was stirred. The wrong done his father by the king woke his temper, and in resentment he spoke. Oh, how haughtiness in evil rulers grows, who steal about the door like dogs and crows, who like servants must on the master wait, that now presume to enter at the gate. The lowly Kshatriya's duty is defined, and as watchdog to guard the house consigned. How now does he to enter in presume, and from the master's plate viands consume? Since Almighty Krishna did hence depart, there is none now to curb the vile upstart. Therefore I shall myself curse him today. Observe my potency and what I say. Thus he, his eyes with rage were copper red, and then the child of the great Rishi said, first touching waters of the Kaushiki, and spoke with thunder and indignity. Because he has transgressed the etiquette, in 7 days from now he will be beset. Takshak will bite this blot of all his clan for slighting my father, a holy man. Thereon the child his way home did betake, and on his father's body saw the snake. Oh dear, how did I do? Decline. Sorry, everybody. Someone who should know better. So then, on his father's body he saw the snake. Fraught with distress at what he had espied, with pitiful lament he loudly cried. When he who sprung from Angi Rasa heard the lamentation of his son was stirred, O Brahmin, opened his eyes by degrees, and round his neck the cruel serpent seized. He threw it off and questioned then his son, why do you weep, my child? What ill is done? When thus the sage of his son had inquired, the latter told him all as it transpired. When having heard of that imprecation denounced upon the king by his own son, displeasure to the Brahmin it did bring, who knew as undeserving such the king. Ah me, alas, what ill is done today! My boy, my childish rashness led astray. A capital punishment is decreed for slight transgression and a venal deed. The king is the vicegerent of the Lord, preeminent and like the God adored. Certes, it is but folly to equate the ruler and the subjects of the state, whose power guards and grants to them good cheer, whereby they flourish and prosper sans fear. What time is dissolved the monarch's command, who bears the cartwheel sign upon his hand, the world of a protector is bereft, at once flourishes oppression and theft, as even the fleecy flocks go astray when there is no shepherd to guide the way. From this day we receive the sin of stain, since unto decay falls the royal reign. Plundered of wealth, there will be much distress, and people will other people oppress, and robbers will appropriate and by stealth another's wife, his chattels, and his wealth. Thereon righteousness falls into decay, mankind from social order goes astray, good manners of conduct are quite disdained, neglected are codes in scripture ordained. But prompted by desire of sordid gain, and like shameless dogs and monkeys profane, with commingling of castes, the base and lewd, there springs an indistinguished multitude. This king of righteousness is guardian and emperor of great and worthy fame. He is also a great devotee dear, the mighty potentate and royal seer, who on his holy preceptor's advice has oft performed the great horse sacrifice. When he was stricken by hunger and thirst, he was not deserving of being cursed. A sinless one has been cursed and reviled through unripe understanding of a child. May the illustrious and mighty one, the soul of all, forgive what has been done. He may be cursed, slandered, cheated, defamed, ill-treated and assailed and arraigned. Though able to retaliate in kind, the devotee to act is disinclined. The sage repented for what had been done, and all iniquity wrought by his son. But of the insult paid him by the king, he was unconcerned, and thought it was nothing. Mostly the saints care not what others do, bound as they are in dualistic view. He derives from the self-felicity, which self transcends beyond the gunas three. In the last chapter 19. Sutta said, the mighty Lord of earth now in his turn could by his deliberation discern, I have a base and lowly action done to the Brahmin, a grave and holy one. It is certain for my heinous offence I soon shall reap the bitter consequence, since I have thus slighted the deity and shall be assailed with calamity. Well, let me suffer now for what may, for my disdain, that I may not commit such sin again. From this day let my royal reign expire, let wealth and power be consumed by fire, ignited by the noble Brahmin clan for my dishonoring a holy man, and purge my mind in flames of repentance, that I never again make such offence. By slighting the twice-born, strict in their vows, I have insulted holy gods and cows. Deliberating thus, the monarch heard that he must die, bitten by the snake bird, occasioned by a curse of the Brahmin's son, and took it as apposite and well done, since detachment would soon from this arise, for worldly joys and things and properties. He therefore abandoned, as troublesome, fond hopes in this and the world to come, and resolved to absorb his mind complete in worshipful service of Krishna's feet. He vowed to fast until the end extreme, and sat him by the deathless river stream. That deathless stream with tulsi pollen blent conveys of Krishna's lotus feet the scent, cleanses both the higher sphere and the low, and over Isha's head doth glistening flow. Who would not serve that stream with pure intent when death approaches nigh and imminent? Thus he, the scion of the Pandu line, to abstention and fasting did resign, and taking by the holy stream his seat, that bears the footwash of Lord Vishnu's feet, he gave himself with singular purpose, his mind in Mukunda's feet to repose. All fond attachments thence he did forsake, and did to vows of a hermit betake. Thereupon a host of mighty seers, along with their disciples, their peers, who, on pretense of their ambulation, to sacred shrines bring purification. Atri, Vashishta, and Chavana named, Saradvan and Arishtanemi famed, and Brigu, Angiras, Parasara, the son of Gadi, axe-wielding Rama, and the great sage hight Indrapramada, and also him known as Idmavaha. Medatiti and Devala were there, Arshtisena, Bharadwaja, austere, Gautama, Pipalada, Maitreya, Aurva, Kavasha, Potborn, Agastya, Dwaipayana, Narada also came, all great sages and all well known to fame. Great sages, godlike sages, and sage kings, all gathered to observe the proceedings, congregated by preceptors led, whereat the king bowed low to them his head. When all were seated there comfortably, again the king bowed in humility, then standing, palms together pressed, began to acquaint them with his intended plan. The king said, "Ah me, we deem ourselves most blessed today, as the great and virtuous grace convey, since martial princes of the Kshatriya race the Brahmins view with disdain and disgrace. Certes, the Lord himself this doom hath sent, and made the Dvijas curse the instrument, since else to household attachments confined, I am unable to withdraw my mind. To be thus into apprehension hurled is the root of detachment from the world. Therefore, O Vipras, may you accept me, and may Ganga, the river deity, receive me as one who with heart and mind is steadfast in the Lord, to him resigned. And let the magic snake bird do its worst, invoked by the thrice-born whom me had cursed. Now therefore, without further questioning, the sweet accounts in song of Vishnu sing. And if I am to be born here again, may I refuge and company attain of those by whom is worshipped and adored the infinite and illustrious Lord. May I have friendship for all beings, then to ye I bow, all holy twice-born men. Thus he, the worthy king, and when he ceased, laid out a mat with tips facing the east, on the south bank, the wife of the sea, and sat him down in that fair company. He faced the north while he awaited there, and had his son the royal burden bear. Thus on the godlike king who sat steadfast, determined to maintain till death his fast, the blessed gods from their station on high precipitated flowers from the sky, and as from above flowers to earth came, they beat their kettle drums in loud acclaim. All those great sages in that gathering approached the resolution, approved the resolution of the king. "'Tis well," said they, who are always inclined toward the peace and welfare of mankind, and would the divine qualities rehearse of him exquisite verse. The sages said, "This resolution and undertaking is not at all astonishing, O king, descended as you are in direct line from those excellent sage-like kings divine, at whose throne the subjected kings bowed down and glistered with many a monarch's crown, and all of which they straightway did forsake, their way to the Almighty Lord to take. All of us shall wait here until the time when this great king his body shall resign, when he shall the supreme region attain, and released from worldly taint, grief and pain. He is an exalted devotee great, and until then we shall all here await." When having heard the sage's speech most fit, nectar dripping and grave, King Parikshit commended them with joy as well beseems, eager to hear on Vishnu's deeds the themes. "Ye have from every side all gathered here, as Vedic texts above the triple sphere, embodied forms eternally abide, and do not in this lower realm reside. But ye have here your gracious favor shown, who have no selfish interest of your own, and seek for others' benefit alone. So now let me raise this inquiry, O wise Vipras, known for fidelity, with due consideration tell to me, for souls in general, what is duty, and in particular frame your reply on right conduct for one about to die." Suddenly, on that very occasion, appeared the illustrious Vyasa's son, who wandered o'er the earth without a care, nor did any badge of distinction bear. Satisfied in himself, void of desire, he wore an avaduta's coarse attire, immaculate in his pure soul refined, while a troop of children followed from behind. So charming and elegant he appears, some 8 and 8 the number of his years. His feet, his legs, his hands, his thighs, beside his arms are long, his shoulders broad and wide. Large eyes, a nose that prominent appears, with fair symmetrical and shapely ears. His handsome countenance with lustre glows, his well-formed neck like fine conch shell glows. Under his broad bosom was scarcely shown the sunken contours of his collarbone. His deeping navel and abdomen shines, with 5 creases forming delicate lines. His raiment was the directions around. His scattered locks lay o'er his face unbound. His arms were long and beautiful to view, as the best of gods shone with a dark hue. His dark complexion and attractive youth, and his smiles charmed the damosels, forsooth. And though his innate glory was concealed, to sages who knew the signs was revealed. Of his ineffable greatness they knew, and rose up from their seats with honor due. And he, the one protected by Vishnu, bowed low his head in salutation too. The ignorant women and children there desisted and betook themselves elsewhere. And when due honors were paid and complete, he sat him on an elevated seat. Thus he, preeminent among them, sate in that gathering, greatest of the great. The Brahmin sages, the royal sages too, godlike sages and all their retinue were like the stellar constellations found, the bright moon in his glory to surround. Thus having been seated with all respect, that tranquil sage of lofty intellect, the king approached with deep humility, and bowing his head, that great devotee, with modesty and palms together pressed, in sweet words his inquiry addressed. The king said, "Ah me, ah me, how fortunate are we to serve the great, unworthy though we be. O Brahmin, by coming here as a guest, thou hast shown thy favor, and we are blessed. Mere recollection of great ones like thee confers straightway on the home sanctity. What of seeing, touching, washing thy feet can be said, and of offering a seat? Great yogi, thy mere presence drives away the deadly sins of man without delay, as Vishnu himself subjugates all those who presume to hold the gods as their foes. Even I, it seems, have been favored here, since Pandu's sons to Krishna were most dear. For love of them and the whole family, he hath most graciously accepted me. Elsewise, how could such vision be conceived of one who traverses paths unperceived, unseen of men, but having approached nigh, one like myself who am about to die? Therefore I question thee, most worthy Lord, thou foremost of yoga teachers adored. What is a man supposed to do, and how, when death approaches as it does e'en now? What should I hear, and what mantras divine by men should be recited, mastermind? What should he think, how in worship employed, and say, what is there that he should avoid? Indeed, potent Brahmin, you do not wait, and are not seen at the householder's gate, and only at the limited time allow that it would take for milking of a cow. Suta said, and thus, with his eloquent questioning, these points of inquiry spoke the king, and that knower of virtue seated nigh, Badarayana's son, made his reply. And thus ends chapter 19 in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and thus ends the first canto. Om Tat Sat Hari Om.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hari Om. Shall I just stop the recording?
Please.